Hi friends, hello, welcome to Books and Crafts. My name is Martyna, and in today's video I would like to talk about 10 books that I believe are perfect reads for my favorite season, that is fall. So we are obviously not in fall yet, and the weather, at least where I am, is definitely not autumnal. We are still going through a heat wave, and I have been struggling, and so I thought maybe to put myself a little bit in a fall mood, I would create this list of books that sound like perfect, atmospheric, cozy, maybe a little bit weird autumn reads. So for me, a good fall read is usually something with a little bit of a dark atmosphere and also something cozy, so I can just grab a book, sit on my couch under a blanket with a hot cocoa or coffee and just read. So yeah, without further ado, let's talk about the books. So these first couple of books are going to be dark academia. Now I personally don't read that much dark academia books, but I really like the aesthetic, the vibe of it, I like the atmosphere, so I thought maybe I would give this subgenre a try. And so the first one that I have on my list is If We Were Villains by ML Rio. This has been out for a few years, I believe, and I've heard very mixed reviews. Some people say it's absolutely their favorite book of all time, favorite dark academia, and for some people it's quite boring. And so it gives me hope, because some of my favorite books are widely considered boring. I do like a slow-moving story. So in this, I believe we are following a guy who just got out of prison, where he spent the past 10 years being convicted for a murder of one of his friends at school. Now, we are not sure whether he did or did not commit this crime, and a detective who convicted him now comes back in contact with him, and he wants to get the whole story. So we go back to the time when he was in school, and he tells us about this group of friends that he had. They were in this like Shakespeare class or something like that. So there is supposed to be a lot of quoting of Shakespeare. And I know that dark academia books often have quite pretentious characters, and this is supposed to be no different, but because it has this a little bit like a thriller, mystery, crime mystery aspect to it, I think I may be able to enjoy it. Yeah, and it just sounds really, really atmospheric. And the other book is obviously Babel by R.F. Kuang. How could I not mention Babel? I am going to start reading it as soon as I have it in my hand. Babel is obviously the new release from R.F. Kuang, who is the author of The Poppy War, which I personally really enjoyed. And this is supposed to be a literary fantasy, dark academia novel with heavy focus on translation and language and some elements of magic, and it's supposed to be beautiful and heartbreaking, and I am so hyped up. I can't wait for this one. Now this next one is slightly different, so I also feel like fall may be a time for me to get into some mythology retellings. For some reason they just feel atmospheric and fall-like to me, and I think I am going to be picking up Circe by Madeline Miller. First of all, the cover is just so fall-like. The colors, the copper, I just love it, and I can't wait to get it in my hands. But Circe is obviously a feminist retelling of Circe, who I believe appears in Odyssey. I don't know much about the myth of Circe, so I'm definitely going to try to read a little bit more about her prior to reading this retelling. But I've heard such amazing things about Madeline Miller's books, especially this one and The Song of Achilles. I think her prose is really beautiful. I've heard a lot of people loved Circe in this book and loved how she got her own voice, as in the original story she's just a side character to Oedipus. So I'm definitely really excited, and if I like this one, then I may also get to The Song of Achilles. However, with The Song of Achilles I'm a little bit worried about having my heart broken. So many people say this is like one of the saddest books ever, and I'm not sure I'm ready for that. However, I am very much looking forward to reading Circe. Middle Game by Shonen Maguire is my next pick for fall. This, first of all, again, the cover looks so atmospheric and so weird and maybe even a little bit creepy, which gives me all the fall feels. But it is supposed to be a story about two siblings, twins. One of them is a genius in like literature and words and kind of humanities, I believe, and the other one is a genius at maths and numbers and all around that. And so this, I believe, is a story about someone who wanted to create gods, and so that these children are not quite human, but not quite gods yet. That's kind of the pitch line. Sounds wonderful. There is alchemy, there is sibling relationships, there is, I believe, some kind of like time travel, or at least the story is not linear, which also sounds quite atmospheric, and I've heard, again, absolutely amazing things about this one. Also, the sequel, Seasonal Fears, came out quite recently, and the cover looks even more autumnal. So if I love Middle Game, then I'm looking forward to reading Seasonal Fears as well. And then I thought maybe fall would be a good time to revisit some classics or to read some classical books that I have not yet read. And so I was thinking, which classical book sounds like it would be a good pick for an atmospheric read? And Frankenstein by Mary Shelley came to my mind. So this is a story about a scientist whose creation turns into a monster, and from the reviews that I've heard, I have not read this book previously, but from the reviews I've heard, it's a tale about nature versus nurture, about belonging, about good versus evil. So I'm expecting a lot of commentary within these themes and a lot of examining of the nature of humanity, which is one of my favorite themes to examine, quite honestly. So I think this might be the classic that I pick. This next book is, again, I believe, a dark academia, but with paranormal elements, maybe a little bit of fantasy, and that is The Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Leigh Bardugo is the author of one of my favorite young adult duologies, which is The Six of Crows and the Crooked Kingdom, and I don't know about this book, quite honestly. So let me first tell you what this one is about. We are following our main character, Galaxy, Alex for short, and she has something terrible that happens to her, and when she is recovering in a hospital, being down and not knowing what to do with her life, someone approaches her and offers her a chance to study at Yale, but the only catch is that she has to infiltrate and investigate some kind of a secret society at Yale. So it sounds really fascinating. There is probably some like occult magic stuff going on, so there is definitely some paranormal things in this book. And again, I've heard very mixed reviews. I'm not sure if I'm going to love it or not, but I already have it. And I also really enjoyed Leigh Bardugo's character work in Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I loved how deep the characters were, how many layers to their personalities and to their stories we got. Loved all of the backstories, so I am hoping that we will also get some of that here. And I am a character-driven reader, so even if the plot does not speak to me that much, even if I don't enjoy it very much, if I get good characters, then I might quite enjoy this one. This next book, I believe, came out quite recently, and again, the cover just speaks fall to me. And also there's this pitch line in the first line of the synopsis, and it says, England, 1882. In Victorian London, two children with mysterious powers are hunted by a figure of darkness, a man made of smoke. And this just does it for me. I love Victorian London setting. I love the idea of like a man made of smoke. There are, I believe, some supernaturally talented children who have some kind of powers. I also heard that it tackles some difficult themes of belonging, of being different. So yeah, it sounds fantastic. It's quite a big book from what I've seen. And this also honestly is a positive for me. I do love big books, and I think it's also the first one in a series. So I'm very excited to get to this one. Now for something cozy, something that I can just snuggle up with a book and a blanket and a cup of coffee, I chose a middle grade fantasy, House Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones, and this one sounds absolutely perfect. I've seen the Ghibli movie and I fell in love with it. So from what I know from the movie, we are following Sophie, who was cursed by a witch, and her appearance changes and now he looks like an old lady. And so to look for maybe a cure to this state, she goes to Howl, who is a wizard and who has this moving castle which basically has legs and it moves around and has all of those rooms in it. And like, I loved the movie. I love Ghibli movies. Again, for fall, very cozy, very cute. And I've heard really great things about this book. When I watched the movie, I had no idea this was also a book. But now that I know, I think it's actually a trilogy. So I am very much looking forward to it and very much looking forward to being back at House Moving Castle again. This next book I actually read, I believe, the beginning of this year, and I am planning to read the sequel this year, but this is The Bone Shot Daughter by Andrea Stewart, and this was one of the most unique fantasy stories that I read, with slight elements of horror, however not too scary and not too creepy. So if you are like me and you don't really like horror that much, I think you still might enjoy this one. So in this one we are set in this island empire and we are following our character Lynn, who is the daughter of the emperor. However, a few years back Lynn lost all of her memory, and so through her eyes we are discovering the mysteries of her father's palace and of this strange magic that is here. So the magic is based on bone shards which are taken from the citizens of this empire, and then with the bone shards the emperor can create some strange constructs made from different animal parts, and they can also be coded almost to do the creator's bidding. So this was really fascinating to learn about. And also in this palace there are so many closed doors, and Lynn is being rewarded a key to a random door after she does something that pleases her father. And so again, it's this element of exploring this creepy, weird palace with all of its locked doors and mysteries, and the fact that Lynn does not know any of this and does not remember any of this makes it even more interesting. We also have another character, Jovis, who is a smuggler, but he kind of turns a savior when he starts helping children escape from those bone shard ceremonies where their bone shards are being removed. And he has the cutest animal companion ever, Mephi. And the sequel It's quite big and quite heavy, is The Bone Shard Emperor. I really enjoyed book one. I really enjoyed how it ended, and I am very much looking forward to continuing with this story and with this kingdom. There is still, I believe, a lot of mysteries to uncover, so if you are looking for a unique fantasy story with a unique setting and magic system and a lot of mysteries, then I definitely recommend The Bone Shard Daughter. And this last book, I believe, is the most well-known on my list, and that is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Especially with this edition, this looks so fall to me. So I have not read it yet. I know it's like a fantasy staple, but with me being an international reader and I've read in Polish for most of my life, some of those staples, especially from like a decade before, kind of escaped me. So I'm looking forward to reading this one, and this is supposed to be a beautifully written story with poetic prose of our main character Kavoth, who is retelling his life story and telling us how he got to being one of the most notorious wizards in this world. And this type of narration, when an older character is telling their life story, is honestly one of my favorites. I love it. I also love beautiful prose, so I can't wait to read something by Patrick Rothfuss. The only thing that is kind of hindering my excitement is the fact that I think we have been waiting quite a long time for the third book, and I also don't think there are any news on that, but still I've heard that even if we never get the third book, the first two, or at least this first one, is definitely worth it. So yeah, I really want to try it for myself. And that was all of the books that I had to talk about today. I am looking forward to fall so much, and also of course there are so many more books that I want to read this fall. If you are looking maybe for some additional recommendations, then do check out the video that I posted recently with my September TBR, because I believe some of those books also would work for this fall atmospheric cozy read. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and it would also mean so much to me if you subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys very soon in the next one. Bye!